Hello everyone and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined today by Gareth.
Hello!
For a hefty chunk of news stories, we've got some big, some small, but all interesting. And Gareth, without wasting any time, can you kick us off, and tell us exactly what's going on with Johnny Depp being removed from the Fantastic Beasts series?
Well, it is funny that you said kicking out, because that's exactly what happened with Johnny Depp in this series. This is obviously off the back of that big Liberal case that he had recently, which he lost. He was kicked out of the franchise after that, and now obviously they're looking for a new Grindelwald. And news now is coming out that Mads Mikkelsen is in line to take on this role. He's in early talks for that, for the role of Gellert. I think Grindelwald. I know a lot of people say it differently. Grindelwald.
Yeah, you've got to get it exactly correct. Otherwise, if you do list videos, people will ravage you in the comments. That's the history that I've learned anyway.
I'd say you just get home drawn, quartered, all the rest of it, or just what's the Avada Kedavra? That's it. That's all you get. You get absolutely murdered by a spell. So yeah, apparently David Yates, who is the director of the film, the third Fantastic Beasts film, is a big fan of Mads Mikkelsen. He's an incredibly talented actor, as we all know. He can. This kind of role definitely is in his wheelhouse. But also, it is worth noting as well that Johnny Depp actually managed to come away with his full $10 million salary, despite only working one day and filming one scene. This is because he was on a pay and play contract. It had no, I can't remember, it had no mutual something with the contract. I can't remember what it is, the actual terminology. But it means that no matter what happened with the film, if it just didn't come out or it got recast, he still gets his full fee. So he's managed to come out with his full salary, and it's looking like Mads Mikkelsen could be taking over the role.
It's a hefty chunk of change, and I'm not a huge Fantastic Beasts fan, but I think Mads Mikkelsen, is a great choice for anything, especially if you're going in a more villainous role. I think he's just absolutely knocks those out of the park. But it was interesting to me as a kind of like outsider to think about like Colin Farrell. I know that was a lot of what people wanted on the internet. People kept bringing his name up because obviously his involvement in the first movie, but apparently he couldn't sign on for anything because he's still filming on the Batman, which extends into 2021, and obviously they want to kick off Fantastic Beasts now and get the ball rolling with a new actor. It seems very fast, but I'm a big fan of Mads, and hopefully he excels in the role. I don't know about you, if you're a much bigger fan of how this sort of like tickles you, seeing him take over the role.
It's one of those things that the Fantastic Beasts series, it's not really got a lot of sentimentality for me yet as a series, just purely because I was that disappointed by Crimes of Grindelwald. I didn't mind the first one. That had a bit of the spirit, the old the Potterverse Wizarding World spirit, and it was just taking it in a new direction. It was quite fun. And I think a large part of that was Colin Farrell's character. He just had something a little bit different. He was so mysterious and everything else. And then just it was quite hard to separate what was going on in the real world with seeing Depp in this film and all the rest of it. It was just murky water for the most part. I remember when I was actually watching the film, that's how I felt about it. And I'm not massively upset because Mads Mikkelsen's great. And I think when you see him in anything that he does, whenever he plays anything that's remotely, let's say, villainous, he brings such layers, so many different layers to it. And his depth as an actor is pretty much unprecedented right now if you're going to talk about these kind of roles. So it sounds like the perfect fit.
Yeah, fully agree. And speaking of sequels, we've actually got news that Wedding Crashers 2 is actually happening 15 years after the fact. The original came out in 2005, obviously, and apparently, according to Vince Vaughn, the star of the original alongside Owen Wilson, the second Wedding Crashers is in the early stages of production. We actually heard earlier this year from Will Ferrell that writing was apparently underway, but it seems like they've only really kicked it off now just to get some quotes up. And Vince Vaughn was talking to, I think it was Entertainment Tonight, yes, I wanted to get that correct. And he said, quote, Owen and I and the director of Crashers have been talking for the first time seriously about a sequel to that movie. He went on to say, I never went and made a sequel to a lot of these films at the time because it felt like we were just chasing a success. It didn't feel like the story idea for the second one was as good as the moment of the excitement that right? Vince Vaughn speaks really strangely in this interview, and it's kind of like very fragmented. So, although I am a bad reader, I also struggle to keep up. He said,
"No, Vince Vaughn is super fragmented. He's a very kind of guy."
He said it just didn't feel like the story idea for the second one was as good as the moment of the excitement that the movie did well. It felt like I'd just go make another movie that was interesting versus go and tread on it. So essentially what he's saying is that he's never done a sequel because the story hasn't been there, but now the story for Wedding Crashers 2 is apparently there, and they're doing something really interesting with it. They're getting back the original cast, Will Ferrell, Rachel McAdams, Owen Wilson, and Vince Vaughn, hopefully to make something interesting. Now, when it comes to me, Wedding Crashers 2 was never high on my, anticipated sequel list, but I'm here for it. I'm here for these old properties kind of coming back and maybe, reevaluating them with a kind of more mature, but still very humorous edge because these characters are much older. Obviously, they learned a lot since the original movie. And whilst I didn't expect to be kind of excited for this, I sort of am, because I don't think you do something like this after 15 years unless you had like a reason to do it, like he said,
Yeah, it is that kind of thing that's the key characteristic that makes this kind of sequel interesting to me, because otherwise it is just paint by numbers, let's do it again, let's do what worked last time. If it's so soon after it, if it's a couple of years after, there is that temptation just to go, that worked once, let's do it again. But similar to like T2 Train Spotting, but that kind of thing where you have like such a nice big gap between the film, you're like, well, I really want to see where these characters are now. Like, 'cause it's been that long, it's been like a generation. They're going to be at completely different points in their lives. They're going to be coming at their whatever arc, whatever story they're coming from a completely different perspective. So I'm super interested.
That's a good point to make, man. Like, I hope this is the T2 Train Spotting and not the Dumb and Dumber 2 of belated, long-awaited sequels. Like, if they manage to get the former and not the latter, then I'm all here for it, as mad as it might sound coming 15 years after the fact. But I've heard through the grapevine you've got some different news for me on The Umbrella Academy, which is like the biggest thing in the world apart from maybe The Boys at the moment.
Yeah, obviously it is, well, I'd say quite easily at this point Netflix's most popular series, really the one that consistently just keeps making all the headlines at this moment in time. And we've just had confirmation that Netflix are confirming that it is going to get a third season. The Umbrella Academy is getting a third season, and they said that in a tweet. They just said that it's gonna commence on February 2021, so it's not that far away as it goes. And yeah, it just goes to show that Netflix can actually keep things going for a third season, which is really nice.
If they're extremely successful, you have to be like Umbrella Academy, Stranger Things level to continue, apparently. But no, I think for this one, obviously, very exciting news. If you're a fan of the Umbrella Academy, obviously hugely exciting to have 10 more episodes to look forward to. But on the other hand, I suppose this was very much expected. Like we were saying, this is one of their biggest shows. I think it got something ridiculous like 3 billion streams in September, which is outrageous.
3 billion minutes of watch
3
time.
billion minutes,
which is,
sorry. Yeah,
that's still insane.
Minutes. Yeah, it's still far and away, I think, the second place, which just hit 1 billion minutes. Like, brass taxes, this series is incredibly popular. People are continuing to watch it. And Netflix are continuing to support it, which is awesome. It sucks that Netflix has to continue to cancel pretty much everything else interesting on their slate, but I mean, I can't be too picky. They've got very ruthless in recent years. There was once over, like back in 2013 to 2015, when it felt like every single Netflix series could just get up to 3 or 4 seasons quite easily, no matter how many viewers they were bringing in or how many subscribers they were bringing in. But now, when they don't have to be that kind of desperate for new content, like Netflix originals are pumping out these genuine smash hits in the case of Stranger Things and Umbrella Academy, that they are sort of being a bit more ruthless when it comes to shows that might not be hitting that level, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm still never going to forgive Netflix for cancelling Glow.
No, I didn't think you would, yeah.
Like that was my jam. That was my lockdown jam. Like that genuinely got me through like the first month and a half of lockdown. I was just like, finish my day at work, watch my little episode of Glow, just see how my girls are doing, and yeah, just pulled the rug out from underneath that one. But I should note as well, because I think I've misspoke a little bit. This Umbrella Academy isn't actually, the third season isn't coming out in February 2021. It's going into production at that time.
Right.
So we have to wait a little longer. It might probably be towards the end of 2021, but you've got enough telly right now to get through. I'll be honest.
understandable, I suppose. Funnily enough, I did watch your video on Glow, and I felt the sadness through you. I felt like I was, it was a very empathetic. I could feel your despair on that. But I'll tell you what is not a piece of despair. This was no segue at all. I've completely run out of all the segues. But the Scorpion King, Gareth, the Scorpion King, mate, is coming back. It's being rebooted. If you don't know what the Scorpion King is, if you don't know if you're too young for whatever reason, the Scorpion King essentially was the role and the movie series, I suppose, that really kicked off Dwayne Johnson's film career. He was a character at the end of The Mummy Returns, pretty much mostly CGI, was a big man/scorpion hybrid. And he was a villain in that, but then he had his own spin-off movie, which as a child I unashamedly loved. I loved the Scorpion King movie. I even had the Scorpion King game. I was that much of a big fan, and it was kind of, it was a big dumb fun. It was like a lot of, Dwayne Johnson movies to come. It was big, it was bombastic, but he brought a lot of charm to the role. He brought a lot of charisma to the role, and it worked for me. They did continue it in some pretty terrible direct-to-DVD spin-offs that I only ever dabbled with that were not as good. But yeah, it is coming back. According to Dwayne Johnson, Jonathan Herman has written the script. His only writing credit so far is the movie Straight Outta Compton, which was very good. But talking about the movie, Dwayne Johnson said, "The Scorpion King was my very first role ever on the silver screen, and I'm honored and excited to reimagine and deliver this cool mythology to a whole new generation." It should be pointed out that he's not actually starring in the movie. He's not going to be the titular Scorpion King anymore. The Wrap, who reported on this, did say that he would probably have some kind of role in it, but he's not coming back to lead the franchise or anything, because that man is incredibly busy, and he's obviously kind of moved on from that to an extent. Gareth, I don't know if you have the same fondness for the Scorpion King as I did, but I'm strangely, weirdly excited for this.
I'm really excited for it purely because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's attached to it, even if he is just going to be a producer, maybe just pop up in a cameo. I love the guy. He could do no wrong by me. I'm a massive wrestling nerd, so he's my guy. But in terms of the Scorpion King, I have a weird relationship with it because it all came about before I was into wrestling, really. So The Rock was I still knew of him. Do you know what I mean? He was still The Rock because you just knew of The Rock, but it wasn't a big deal, let's say, for me. And I think I only really stumbled upon the fact that he was the Scorpion King watching The Mummy Returns years later, a long time after. And I thought it was a rib. I genuinely thought it was a rib because I saw him at the end of The Mummy Returns. And I thought this is what everyone's going mad about. It's not very good.
Listen, man, at the time, the Scorpion King himself in The Mummy Returns was the biggest thing ever. Everyone in the playground when I was 10 was losing their minds over this thing. I don't know how well it's aged now. I haven't watched The Mummy Returns in a long time, but the Mummy franchise, I'm telling you, was good stuff. And the Scorpion King, I'm telling you again, haven't seen that in about 15 years, but I'm gonna bet it's at least all right in the game as well. Pretty good. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. We've covered every news item. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think of Mads Mikkelsen stepping into the magical shoes of Johnny Depp in the Fantastic Beasts series? Are you looking forward to a new Scorpion King or Wedding Crashers? And are you hype for the Umbrella Academy Season 3? Let us know, and while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't, though, I've been Josh, joined by Gareth, and we'll see you soon. Bye.